All right, guys. So for section number 2, we're going to start talking about measurements. So bust out those calculators. So measurement, these are things that have numerical information, right? We're going to take something to measure something else, much like you take a ruler to measure length. So length is just the distance between two things, right? We understand that. Now length, this is going to be measured in meters. All right, we're going to get there in a minute. Now mass, all right? Mass is the amount of stuff or the amount of matter we're talking about. And mass is going to be measured in grams or kilograms. We'll get to that in a minute. Little t, as you can see in the notes right here, that's time. All right. So time is usually measured in seconds, but we can agree that minutes and hours are viable options as well. Now, temperature is kind of weird because people are like, it's like, what does temperature actually measure? And so that's something that we kind of have to figure out. What does it measure? But here we're going to be using either Celsius or Kelvin. We will not be using Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit's stupid, and there's a reason for that. In mole, this is the number of. All right, so it's the number of things. It's a counting mechanism. And we're going to use mole because when we start counting atoms, we have to count like a lot. And so you'll see what we're talking about. All right, so mass versus weight. All right, so in this particular case, we got to look at certain things. So mass versus weight. And in mass versus weight, it's a comparison because we will be massing things. We will not be weighing them. All right. It's so here, mass, like we said, mass, it's the amount. All right. We were talking about an amount. Whereas weight, this is a force. All right. So we have right now, weight is a force, whereas mass is an amount. All right. And so this question right here, I want you to think about this because I'm going to ask you when we jump back into class, what's the difference between here and the moon? So Earth and the moon, what's the big difference? Okay. Now here, this is something, and we're going to jump into some practice after this. All right. There'll be specific practice problems. But prefixes, these prefixes are going to tell us how many of something we have. All right. So if you have 1 kilometer, that's 10 to the third meters. So meter is like the standard, and then 1 kilometer is 10 to the third or 1,000. If you have 1 centimeter, that is 10 to the negative second meters. So the prefix merely tells us what factor of 10 we're multiplying by. I have bolded and italicized 4. Those 4 you need to know. All right. Kilo, centa, milli, nano. Those are the ones we're going to focus on. Deci is something that we will talk about once we start talking about 3-dimensional units. All right.